They said I needed a wife. Some ridiculous law to
Cure my isolation.
The transport shuttle's engines hummed to a gentle stop, but Ambassador Ethan Cross barely registered it. His gaze was fixed on the viewport, drinking in luminous city on Aetheria Prime. Below, glowing organic structures stretched across the landscape, merging seamlessly with the swirling, luminous mist that pulsed with an inner light. 3 months of relentless preparation, countless briefings, and sleepless nights studying alien customs had all led to this make-or-break moment. This was Earth's most crucial diplomatic mission in decades, potentially our last shot at securing a vital energy source to avert a looming global crisis back home, where continental power grids were already strained and whispers of resource wars grew louder by the day. Ethan straightened his formal diplomatic uniform, feeling the familiar weight of expectation settle on his shoulders. At 32, he was the youngest ambassador ever selected for an interspecies negotiation, chosen for his reputation as a cool-headed mediator. He often joked that his singular focus came from a lack of anything else truly engaging in his life, a self-deprecating truth he rarely acknowledged. The trade agreements he was here to negotiate could secure resources Earth desperately needed, while theoretically opening new frontiers for both civilizations. Yet, a gnawing unease persisted. His last pre-flight intelligence briefing had been troubling. Subtle discrepancies in the Aethelian energy signature reports, an odd omission in the historical data regarding off-worlder interactions, dismissed as minor anomalies, but they kept replaying in his mind like a broken hollow loop. There was a sense of something hidden, just beneath the surface of Aetheria's shimmering beauty. The airlock hissed open, releasing a breath of oddly sweet, ozone-like air. Ethan stepped onto the gleaming, biologically responsive platform of Aetheria Prime's primary spaceport. The gravity felt almost imperceptibly lighter than Earth's, and every surface seemed to subtly shift hue with his presence, as if the very ground acknowledged his arrival. Towering, organically grown structures surrounded him, their surfaces pulsating with soft, internal light that dimmed and brightened as the atmospheric mist drifted past. It was alien, captivating, and unsettling all at once. Ambassador Cross. A cheerful voice called out in perfectly accented English. Ethan turned. Approaching him was a figure unmistakably Aethelian, Lyra Novaris. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with an elegant, compact build. Her skin, normally a serene blue, shimmered faintly with an inner light that seemed to follow her subtle emotional shifts. Her eyes, deep pools of swirling starlight, held an unsettling depth, as if they contained galaxies. Instead of hair, intricate organic light fibers flowed around her head, chiming softly like distant wind chimes as she moved. Lyra extended her hand to the human custom, her grip surprisingly firm, her skin warm despite its ethereal glow. "I'm Lyra Novaris, your assigned cultural liaison," she said, her voice a soothing melody, almost like a low hum of power. "Welcome to Aetheria Prime." "Thank you," Ethan replied, relief washing over him at her professional demeanor. He'd expected more stiffness from an alien, more rigid adherence to protocols. "I'm looking forward to working with you during the negotiations." Lyra's starlit eyes met his, and a faint, playful violet hue bloomed on her skin. "Oh, we'll be doing much more than working together, Ambassador. Come, let me escort you to your quarters." There was a hint of something deeper in her tone, a quiet confidence that stirred Ethan's underlying anxieties. He'd meticulously researched Aethelian protocols, yet nothing had prepared him for this level of personal engagement from a cultural liaison. He felt a prickle of unease. What exactly had he missed in the briefings? As they walked through the spaceport's soaring, organically curved corridors, Ethan marveled at the architecture. Everything seemed to flow, as if the buildings had grown from the planet itself, alive and breathing. Other Aethelian moved past them with fluid grace, their clothing woven from luminous biofilaments that sang softly as they passed, each step a testament to their harmony with their world. The negotiations begin tomorrow, Ethan stated, trying to steer the conversation back to business. I've studied your preliminary proposals, and I think we can find common ground on the energy resource allocation. Perhaps, Lyra said, glancing at him sideways, her skin momentarily flashing a curious amber, a sign of contemplation. But first, we need to address your living arrangements. This way. They entered a transport pod that glided silently through tubes of translucent, living matter, offering breathtaking views of luminous city below. Ethan watched glowing spires twist toward the sky like frozen energy tornadoes, their surfaces alive with shifting patterns of light. The beauty was undeniable, yet it felt unsettlingly alien, a place where the lines between organic and inorganic, between structure and life, blurred. I assume I'll have standard diplomatic housing, Ethan said absently, still mesmerized by the vibrant cityscape. Not exactly, Lyra replied, her tone carrying a hint of mischief that sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. The pod came to rest at a residential tower that seemed to grow from the living rock of a hillside, its entrance a swirling vortex of shimmering light. As they stepped out, Lyra turned to face him, her expression suddenly serious, all playfulness gone. Ambassador Cross. Ethan, she began, her starlight eyes locking onto his. There's something critically important I need to explain. According to Aethelian law, no off-worlder can remain on Aetheria Prime for extended periods without a designated Nexus Bond. What? Ethan's attention snapped fully to her, the alien grandeur fading into the background, replaced by a sharp sense of alarm. Lyra's enigmatic smile returned, bright and confident, yet with an edge of absolute certainty. A Nexus Bond, a soul-bound companion, someone to provide emotional stability and cultural guidance. It's not optional. It's our most sacred law, designed to prevent the psychological breakdown that isolation causes among visiting species. Our history is littered with tragic examples of unbonded aliens succumbing to this solitude sickness. Ethan stared at her, his mind reeling. I don't understand. Are you saying I need to marry someone? In a manner of speaking, yes. Lyra's starlight eyes met his steadily. You've been assigned a partner for the duration of your stay, Ambassador Cross. Her smile widened, a hint of something deeper in her gaze. It's me. The soft chiming of her organic light fibers seemed to echo louder in the sudden, charged silence as Ethan processed her words. The weight of interstellar diplomacy suddenly felt far more complicated than any training had prepared him for. He felt a cold dread creep into his stomach, a foreboding that went beyond mere inconvenience. This wasn't just a cultural quirk. It felt like a trap, carefully laid, and Lyra, with her calm demeanor and knowing gaze, was at its center. He had to wonder if this was a negotiation tactic, a way to gain leverage before the talks even began. He had to push back hard. His internal alarm bells were screaming. Absolutely not. Ethan's voice echoed in the organically curved hallway. This has to be some kind of mistake. I'm here for trade negotiations, not whatever this is. He paced, the smooth, living floor yielding slightly beneath his diplomatic boots. There must be an exemption, a waiver. My mission is too critical for this kind of personal entanglement. He pulled out his datapad, frantically swiping through Aethelian legal codes he'd studied. Nothing about this. An oversight or a deliberate omission. Lyra's steps never faltered, her organic light fibers chiming softly with each movement, a melody of calm that grated on his frayed nerves. I understand your confusion, Ethan. Most off-worlders react this way initially, but our psychological studies spanning centuries show that isolation leads to poor decision-making, emotional instability, and often complete mental breakdown in visiting species. We've even observed it in brief human excursions. The Aethelian neuroresonance field amplifies internal disharmony, making solitary living a direct threat to cognitive function for non-natives. Her voice, though calm, held an unsettling weight of conviction that resonated with some hidden fear deep within him. I'm perfectly stable on my own, Ethan protested, though his voice carried less conviction than he intended. The tight knot in his stomach was already making him question that assertion. He hadn't felt truly stable in years, a constant, low-level hum of anxiety his only companion. His parents' nomadic diplomatic life had instilled in him an independence that bordered on emotional self-exile. He had learned to thrive in solitude, to value work above all else, seeing personal relationships as inconvenient attachments. "Are you?" Lyra paused at an ornate doorway that seemed carved from a single, massive organic growth. She placed her palm against it, and it dissolved into shimmering particles of light before reforming as an opening. "When was the last time you had a meaningful conversation that wasn't about work? When did you last share a meal with someone who wasn't a colleague? When did you last experience genuine, unburdened laughter?" Her starlight eyes held his, unblinking, probing, seeing past the carefully constructed facade he presented to the world. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. The truth was uncomfortably obvious. His life had become a relentless cycle of diplomatic functions and solitary hotel rooms, each one blurring into the next. He remembered Director Morrison's dry comments about his singular focus and lack of personal distractions, once seen as strengths, now feeling like a profound weakness, exposed under Lyra's penetrating gaze. He had built walls so high, he sometimes forgot what it felt like to truly connect. His last personal interaction had been a terse video call with his sister months ago, interrupted by an urgent data burst. The apartment beyond the threshold took his breath away. Curved walls of living light provided panoramic views of luminous city, the glowing spires reaching like silent prayers towards the mist-shrouded sky. Soft, responsive furnishings and earth tones created a surprisingly cozy, almost nurturing atmosphere, a stark contrast to the sterile Earth Embassy quarters he was used to. Bioluminescent plants cast gentle, shifting light throughout the space, responding subtly to his presence, like living lamps, creating a soothing, alien ambience. 2 bedrooms, Lyra said, noting his expression, her skin briefly flushing a reassuring green. "I'm not unreasonable, Ambassador. This arrangement is about companionship and cultural guidance, not physical obligations. It's designed to facilitate your mission by maintaining your cognitive health." Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by an odd twinge of something he refused to examine too closely. A flicker of disappointment, perhaps at the lack of immediate physical pressure. He pushed it away, focusing on the practicalities. "How long will this last?" he asked, setting his luggage down heavily. "Until your mission concludes. Typically 6 to 8 weeks for trade negotiations, though some complex agreements can extend to several months." Lyra moved gracefully through the space, touching various surfaces that responded by adjusting their light intensity and ambient temperature. She was effortlessly in tune with her environment, a living part of the Aethelian ecosystem. "I've prepared the guest room for you, but we'll share common areas, kitchen, living space, the reflection gardens." "This is insane," Ethan muttered, running a hand through his hair, the situation feeling increasingly surreal. "What if we're completely incompatible? What if we can't stand each other? What if this bond actually hinders my mission by compromising my judgment?" He envisioned headlines back on Earth, Ambassador compromised by alien ritual, Earth's future in jeopardy. The thought of his carefully cultivated reputation being destroyed by this bizarre requirement sent a jolt of panic through him. Lyra turned to face him, her starlight eyes serious, her skin a calm, resolute blue. "Then your mission will likely fail, and both our peoples will suffer for it. But I don't think that will happen. The Council chose me specifically for this assignment, Ethan. I've studied human psychology, your personal files, even your dietary preferences. You've been spying on me?" Ethan retorted, a sharp edge in his voice. The thought of his life, his private habits, laid bare to an alien, was deeply unsettling. He had always guarded his personal life fiercely, a last bastion against the relentless demands of his career. "Learning about you," she corrected, her skin briefly showing a defensive indigo. "Just as you've been studying our culture. Tell me, what did your briefing say about Aethelian Nexus Bond practices. Ethan frowned, searching his memory, pulling up dusty mental files. That you form strong pair bonds, usually for life. That social isolation is considered a form of torture in your society. Our analysts noted the unique neurochemistry mentioned in Aethelian medical texts, but dismissed the bonding as merely a cultural preference, not a biological imperative. They categorized it as a social eccentricity at best. Exactly. We literally cannot function alone for extended periods. Our neurochemistry requires regular, meaningful social interaction to maintain balance. The Aethelian resonance field makes isolation a direct threat to mental and emotional stability, affecting not just mood, but cognitive function, even physiological well-being. It's why our greatest cultural achievements often stem from the collaborative consciousness of bonded pairs and groups. Lyra moved to what appeared to be a kitchen area, though the appliances were unlike anything Ethan had seen, glowing conduits of energy preparing meals with a mere thought. We assumed other sapient species shared this trait, perhaps in a less pronounced form. Humans are more independent. Are you? Lyra's question hung in the air as she began preparing something that smelled remarkably like earth chamomile tea. Your psychological profiles suggest otherwise. High stress levels, insomnia, difficulty forming lasting relationships, classic symptoms of chronic isolation among our people, all clearly present in your own bioscans, Ambassador. My analysis indicated a systemic emotional withdrawal, not independence. Ethan watched her work, noting the fluid efficiency of her movements. Despite his protests, there was something undeniably soothing about sharing the space with another living being after months of sterile diplomatic solitude. The faint hum of the apartment, the soft glow of her skin, the gentle chime of her organic light fibers. It was all strangely comforting, a low-frequency hum of shared existence he hadn't realized he craved. "Why you?" he asked quietly, the question escaping before he could censor it. Lyra paused in her preparations, turning to him. "I'm a xenopsychologist. I study alien mental patterns, focusing on interspecies compatibility. I've also never been Nexus bonded before, which the Council felt would make the arrangement less complicated, no pre-existing deep connections to interfere with a novel bond. And I volunteered." She met his gaze, her starlight eyes holding a flicker of something shy but undeniably powerful. "Why?" "Because I believe these negotiations are crucial for both our peoples. And because—" She hesitated, her skin flushing a faint blue. "I was curious about humans. About you specifically." Something in her tone made Ethan's pulse quicken unexpectedly, a strange flutter in his chest he hadn't felt in years. He pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the mundane. "What happens now? Now we live together. We share meals, conversations, daily routines. I help you understand Aethelian customs that could make or break your negotiations, and you help me understand human perspectives that could bridge the gap between our species." Lyra handed him a steaming cup of the tea-like beverage. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Ethan was startled by the warmth that spread up his arm from the contact, a subtle, almost magnetic pull that made him almost drop the cup. "This smells like chamomile," he said, surprised. "I told you I studied your preferences," Lyra replied, settling into a chair that molded itself to her form, her skin radiating a gentle, calming green. "Your stress responses decrease by 30% when you consume chamomile tea before sleep. It's not just about comfort, Ethan. It's about creating optimal conditions for your cognitive performance and well-being. This arrangement only works if we can build genuine trust and stability." Ethan took a sip. The flavor was exactly like the chamomile tea he drank every night in his quarters back on Earth, a habit he'd never mentioned in any official file. A profound sense of vulnerability washed over him. How could she know such an intimate detail? Lyra's smile was mysterious, her starlight eyes twinkling. "I'm very good at my job." As the evening progressed, they talked carefully at first, then with growing ease. Lyra explained Aethelian social customs, not just the rules, but the underlying philosophy, the emotional currents that drove their society, the subtle nuances that a human translator could never fully convey. She helped him unpack, her presence somehow making the alien apartment feel more like home than any diplomatic residence ever had. When she laughed at a story about a diplomatic mishap on Mars, an incident involving a rogue robotic cleaner and a very embarrassed dignitary. The sound was like distant, harmonious bells, and Ethan found himself wanting to hear it again, a strange, unexpected comfort in the alien environment. He found himself relaxing, truly relaxing, for the first time in months. "Tomorrow will be challenging," she said as they prepared for sleep, her skin a soft, contemplative blue. "The preliminary meetings will test every assumption you have about Aethelian culture, and perhaps about yourself. Will you be there?" The question escaped before Ethan could stop it, a genuine need in his voice, a faint echo of the little boy who always sought reassurance in unfamiliar places. "Every moment," Lyra assured him, her skin settling into a comforting golden hue. "That's what the Nexus Bond means. We face everything together, Ambassador." Her use of his title, after their evening of intimate conversation, felt like a gentle reminder of the impossible chasm they still needed to bridge. As Ethan lay in his bed later, staring out at the alien stars, he realized that for the first time in months, he didn't feel alone. The thought should have worried him more than it did. A profound peace, unsettling in its novelty, settled over him, a quiet hum that seemed to match the gentle resonance of the Aethelian structures around him. He felt supported, and utterly out of his depth. The Aethelian High Council chamber was a marvel of organic architecture, with seats arranged in concentric circles that seemed to grow from the living floor. As Ethan took his place at the central negotiating table, he felt the weight of dozens of alien gazes upon him, their starlit eyes reflecting an intelligence both ancient and utterly foreign. He caught Lyra's eye briefly, her skin a soft, steady gold. Her organic light fibers shimmered faintly, a subtle comfort in the intimidating space. "Remember," Lyra whispered beside him, her voice barely audible through his translator. "Direct eye contact for longer than 3 seconds is considered either a challenge or an intimate gesture. Stick to brief glances. Aethelian communication is often in the subtle shifts of light and sound, not just spoken words." Ethan nodded slightly, profoundly grateful for her presence. Over the past week of cohabitation, Lyra had become an invaluable guide through the labyrinth of Aethelian social customs, anticipating his missteps before he even made them. She corrected his posture during greetings, coached him on the nuanced inflections of Aethelian formal address, and even advised him on the appropriate emotional responses to various diplomatic statements. But more than that, she had become something he hadn't expected. A friend, a confidant. He still wrestled with the implications of the Nexus Bond, the almost intrusive level of intimacy it demanded, the constant, subtle awareness of another being's emotional state that permeated his own. Yet he couldn't deny the profound stability she brought to his otherwise tumultuous existence. He felt sharper, more focused, less susceptible to the draining stress that usually accompanied high-stakes negotiations. High Council Elder Solara rose from their seat, their towering form draped in robes woven from luminous biofilaments that pulsed with soft light, like embodied starlight. When they spoke, their voice resonated through the chamber with harmonic overtones, a deep, ancient sound that seemed to vibrate through Ethan's very bones. "Ambassador Cross, we welcome you to these negotiations. However, we must address concerns raised by some council members about your unconventional Nexus Bond arrangement." Concerns. Ethan felt his stomach drop. This was it, the moment of reckoning. He'd seen this coming, a storm brewing behind the calm, Aethelian smiles. Council Advisor Lyra, their silvery organic light fibers cascading to the floor like a living waterfall, spoke up, their voice carrying a sharp, almost dissonant tone. "Lyra Novaris has never completed a full Nexus Bond cycle. Some question whether an incomplete bond, particularly with an off-worlder, can provide the emotional stability required for such delicate negotiations. The integrity of our diplomatic process is paramount. Ethan glanced at Lyra, seeing a flicker of indigo on her skin, indicating tension and defensiveness, despite her outwardly calm expression. With respect, Council Advisor, Lyra has been an exemplary guide and partner. Her expertise has been invaluable in preparing me for these talks. He kept his voice steady, his eyes briefly meeting Solara's before sweeping across the other council members. Partnership and bonding are different concepts, Ambassador. Elder Solara replied, their starlit eyes unwavering. A true Nexus Bond requires profound emotional vulnerability, shared experiences of joy and pain, intimate knowledge of each other's deepest fears and dreams. It is a fusion, not merely a collaboration. We question if this artificial pairing can truly meet the demands of our ancient law. Heat rose in Ethan's cheeks. Our arrangement is professional, which is precisely the problem. We are here for diplomacy, not personal entanglement. He heard his own words, stark and defensive, and knew they sounded hollow even to his own ears. The truth was, it was no longer just professional. Council Advisor Alera's starlit eyes fixed on him, a hint of disdain in their glowing depths. Professional relationships lack the emotional depth necessary to prevent the isolation-induced mental instability that affects off-worlders. Already we see signs of strain in your interactions, Ambassador. Alera's words felt like a surgical strike, hitting exactly where he was most vulnerable. Your recent bioscans show elevated cortisol levels, disrupted sleep patterns, and a nervous tremor in your right hand during particularly contentious discussions. These are not signs of stability. These are symptoms of a diplomat teetering on the edge, a risk we cannot afford. I'm perfectly fine, Ethan protested, though he couldn't deny the tension headaches that had been plaguing him lately, or the way his hands had started trembling during particularly stressful moments. He knew he looked tired, drawn. The sleepless nights weren't just from briefings anymore. They were from the unsettling intimacy of the Nexus Bond, the raw exposure to Lyra's thoughts and feelings, and the terrifying questions it raised about his carefully constructed life. He was fighting a war on two fronts, the diplomatic one and the personal one. Lyra placed her hand on his arm, the touch sending an unexpected jolt of calm through him, a gentle wave of emotional stability flowing directly from her. Her skin glowed a soft, reassuring green. High Council Elder, perhaps we could demonstrate the effectiveness of our bond through the negotiations themselves? The immediate results of our combined efforts should speak for themselves. The Ambassador's perceived strain is merely the healthy stress response of a human confronting an entirely new paradigm. Elder Solar's expression remained unreadable. Very well, but if overt signs of emotional instability manifest, if the Nexus Bond proves insufficient, we will be forced to reassign you to a properly bonded guide, Ambassador Cross. These talks are too important to risk on an experimental arrangement. Their gaze lingered on Lyra, a hint of unspoken scrutiny, perhaps suspicion. The pressure in the room intensified, not just from the Aethelian side, but from the cold, calculated realization that Earth, too, was watching for any sign of weakness. Ethan knew Director Morrison would seize any opportunity to invalidate his mission, especially if it involved an unconventional alien relationship that defied Earth's sterile protocols. He felt a cold dread, knowing his career, and potentially Earth's future, hung in the balance, dangling on the thread of this unwanted, yet increasingly vital, connection to Lyra. The negotiations that followed were grueling. Complex trade agreements, resource allocation disputes over rare cosmic dust, and territorial rights discussions stretching across contested star lanes. Each session was a marathon of intricate Aethelian diplomacy, a dance of subtle power plays and veiled threats. But throughout all, Lyra was his anchor. She translated not just spoken language, but cultural nuances, the unspoken meanings behind the Aethelians' rhythmic speech and shifting skin tones. Her subtle touch on his arm, a flicker of color on her skin, warned him when he was about to make a social misstep or when a seemingly innocuous Aethelian phrase carried a hidden insult. Her gentle nods, a warm pulse of energy through their bond, encouraged him when he navigated particularly treacherous diplomatic waters, pushing for concessions that seemed impossible just days before. Ethan found himself relying on her instincts, trusting her interpretations implicitly, almost as if he could feel her insights directly flowing into his mind. He felt a growing respect for her intellect, and something warmer, a budding admiration for her unwavering composure under pressure. She was not just a guide, she was a partner, truly. During a short break, they walked together through the council complex's reflection gardens, where bioluminescent flora shimmered softly in the artificial breeze, releasing gentle, calming pheromones into the air. The living structures of the garden pulsed with a low, harmonious hum, a natural melody that soothed his frayed nerves. "You saved me in there," Ethan said quietly, the words feeling understated given the intricate web of Aethelian protocols Lyra had navigated him through. Multiple times, I nearly offended Elder Solara during the energy dividend discussion, and I completely missed the subtle implication of Alara's final query. "We saved each other," Lyra corrected, her skin taking on a deep, thoughtful blue, reflecting the subdued light of the garden. "Your human perspective helped bridge gaps I couldn't see. When you suggested the resource-sharing model based on Earth's oceanic treaties, that was brilliant. It was a concept so alien to our internal distribution philosophy, yet so elegantly fair. I couldn't have adapted it without understanding your people's communal mindset, which you taught me." They paused beside a flowing liquid light fountain, where vibrant streams of pure energy flowed in impossible spirals, creating music as it moved, each ripple a note in a complex, shifting symphony. The setting sun painted everything in shades of amber and rose, casting long, ethereal shadows. "Ethan," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying a rare vulnerability, a subtle shift in its usual melodic tone. "Can I ask you something personal?" He nodded, surprised by how much he trusted her with his vulnerabilities now. The walls he'd carefully constructed over decades felt strangely permeable around her. "What happened to make you so afraid of connection?" "The files mentioned you've never maintained a long-term romantic relationship, that your attachments are fleeting, almost deliberately superficial." The question hit deeper than expected, resonating with a quiet ache he rarely acknowledged. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, watching the liquid light fountain's hypnotic patterns. "My parents were diplomats too. I grew up in embassy compounds across 3 different star systems. Always the outsider, always temporary. Every 2 or 3 years, a new planet, a new school, new faces. You learned early that connections just meant more pain when it was time to leave. It was easier not to form them at all." His voice was flat, devoid of the emotion he felt, a practiced detachment. "And yet you chose a career that requires you to keep leaving. To keep being temporary," Lyra observed, her voice gentle, understanding, not accusatory. Her skin shifted to a compassionate, soft lavender. "It's what I'm good at. What I know," he conceded, the admission feeling raw. "It's safe. Controlled." He looked at her then, truly looked, taking in the compassionate intelligence in her starlit eyes, the way the fading light caught the subtle shift in her glowing skin. Her presence felt profoundly real in a way nothing else in his life ever had. "Until now, I thought that was enough." What changed? Before he could lose his courage, before his carefully built walls could reassert themselves, Ethan reached out and gently touched her face, his fingers tracing the delicate glow of her skin, the subtle hum of her organic light fibers. "You did." Lyra's breath caught, her eyes widening, her skin flickering through a spectrum of startled emotions. Surprise, a fleeting blush of red, then a radiant, hopeful gold. In that moment, the space between them seemed to crackle with possibility, a silent hum of unspoken desires filling the air, far more powerful than any diplomatic tension. "The harmonic convergence is tomorrow night," she whispered, her voice barely audible, a fragile melody. It's a sacred ceremony where pairs demonstrate their emotional connection through ancient rituals. We have to attend, as your cultural guide. Her hand instinctively found his, their fingers intertwining. Yes. But Ethan, her voice dropped even lower, her skin darkening to a deep indigo, reflecting a rising anxiety. The rituals required genuine intimacy. Not physical, necessarily, but emotional. Complete openness. If the Council senses deception, if they perceive our Nexus Bond as merely a facade, they will interpret it as a profound insult to Aethelian law. The consequences could be dire, not just for us but for the entire mission. What are you saying? Ethan asked, his grip tightening on her hand, a tremor of apprehension running through him. Lyra's starlit eyes met his, and he saw his own growing feelings reflected there, undeniable and terrifying. I'm saying that tomorrow night, we won't be able to pretend anymore. Not with each other, and not with them. As they stood in the reflection gardens, surrounded by the gentle hum of bioluminescent life, the weight of unspoken feelings heavy between them, Ethan realized that somewhere between diplomatic protocol and shared meals, between cultural lessons and quiet conversations, the impossible had happened. He was falling in love with an alien woman who might be the key to saving both their worlds. The question was whether he was brave enough to admit it, to her, to himself, and to an entire civilization watching their every move. And more critically, was he brave enough to finally tear down the walls he had built around his own heart? The festival grounds were packed with bonded pairs, their combined emotional energies making the very air shimmer with soft, pulsating light. The atmosphere was vibrant, almost overwhelming, a stark contrast to the rigid formality of the council chamber. High Council Elder Solara greeted them at the ceremonial circle, their expression unreadable, but their gaze sharper, more scrutinizing than ever. Ambassador Cross, Lyra Novaris, tonight you will demonstrate the depth of your bond before our people. Remember, deception is impossible here. The luminous biofilaments that weave through our world, the very energies of Aetheria, respond to genuine emotion. They will expose any falsehood. As the ceremony began, Ethan found himself swept into something far more profound than he'd expected. The bonding dance required them to move as one being, each synchronized step revealing deeper layers of their connection. It wasn't about complex choreography, but about an intuitive flow, a shared rhythm that emerged from their entwined emotions. As they danced, the organic structures around them began to glow, responding to their synchronized heartbeats, their movements a testament to their growing unity. "Tell me your greatest fear," Lyra whispered as they spun together, her starlight eyes searching his, urging him to reveal his deepest vulnerability. Her skin pulsed a vibrant gold, a silent plea for honesty. "That I'm incapable of truly loving someone," Ethan admitted, the words torn from his depths, raw and agonizing. "That I'll always be alone, always temporary, destined to watch life from behind a pane of glass." The admission sent a tremor through him, the exposure itself a new kind of pain. "Mine is that you'll leave and forget I ever existed," she replied, tears glistening in her starlit eyes, her voice a fragile chime. "That this connection, so new, so fragile, will simply dissipate like morning mist when your mission ends." The glowing structures around them blazed brighter, their harmonics creating music that seemed to emanate directly from their very souls, a powerful symphony of shared vulnerability. Other dancers, drawn by the intensity of their emotional resonance, stopped to watch as their connection deepened, an almost painful intensity filling the air. During the communion of souls, they sat facing each other, hands clasped, while ancient Aethelian tonal chants washed over them, their frequencies designed to dismantle emotional barriers. Ethan felt walls he'd maintained his entire life crumbling, not just within himself, but between them as Lyra's emotions flowed into him. Her profound loneliness, her fierce intelligence, her unwavering hope for their peoples, her growing love for him, and her raw terror that it wasn't enough. In return, he opened himself completely, sharing memories of childhood isolation, the quiet despair of solitary holidays, diplomatic failures that haunted him, moments of profound doubt. He shared the exact moment he first saw her step onto the platform and felt something shift in his carefully ordered world, a silent, undeniable tremor of recognition. As the emotional currents intertwined, the organic light fibers above them erupted in patterns of light that reflected their entwined emotions, a breathtaking symphony of shared vulnerability. Gasps arose from the watching crowd as the display grew more elaborate, evidence of a Nexus Bond deeper than many lifelong pairs achieved, of a resonance rarely seen. But their triumph was short-lived. 3 days later, as they worked together on breakthrough proposals that could revolutionize trade between their species, Ethan's secure communicator chimed with an emergency message from Earth. Director Morrison's face appeared on the holographic display, his expression grim, his image distorted slightly by the interstellar connection. Cross, what the hell is happening out there? Intelligence reports suggest you formed some kind of romantic attachment to your alien handler. Our analysts are flagging your recent proposals as atypical. Ethan felt Lyra tense beside him, her skin flickering with alarm, a rapid shift from calm blue to agitated crimson. Director, Lyra is my cultural liaison, not a handler. And the proposals are atypical because they offer genuine mutual benefit, not just Earth's advantage. She's compromised your objectivity. The trade concessions you're proposing are far too generous. It's like you're negotiating on their behalf, not Earth's. This isn't diplomacy, Cross. It's emotional capitulation. Morrison's voice was cold, laced with a barely concealed accusation, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. The council back home is in an uproar. I'm negotiating for mutual benefit. Director, we found a pathway to long-term sustainability for both our peoples, not just short-term gains for one side. Ethan retorted, his own anger flaring, the familiar defensiveness rising within him. You're negotiating with your dick, Cross, or your heart, which in this business is even worse. I'm sending a replacement. Ambassador Thorne is already en route. You'll return on the next transport. The connection terminated abruptly, leaving them in stunned silence, the holographic image of Morrison's scowling face dissolving into shimmering motes of light. They're removing you from the mission, Lyra whispered, her robes cycling through dark, distressed hues, deep grays and stormy violets, reflecting her inner turmoil. Her organic light fibers drooped, their gentle chiming silenced. I won't let them. Ethan's voice was steady, a newfound resolve hardening his features. These negotiations are too important. What we've built here, the foundations of trust and mutual understanding. What we've built is exactly the problem. Lyra turned away, her shoulders shaking, the soft glow of her skin dimming significantly. They think I've manipulated you, that I've used our Nexus Bond to serve Aethelian interests, to exploit your emotions. Her voice was laced with self-doubt, a raw edge of anguish. You haven't. You've helped me see solutions that benefit everyone, that we never would have found operating under our old adversarial models. Ethan reached for her, trying to turn her to face him. Have I? She finally faced him, anguish clear in her starlit features, her eyes clouded with pain. Ethan, I love you. That love influences everything I do, every suggestion I make, every interpretation I offer. How can either of us be sure where my feelings end and my duty begins? Perhaps they are right. Perhaps I have compromised you, even unintentionally. Her skin flared with a brief, painful burst of crimson, then settled into a deep, sorrowful indigo. Meanwhile, on Aetheria Prime, traditionalist factions were raising their own concerns, amplified by the recent display at the Harmonic Convergence. Elder Zephyr, leader of the Purity Coalition, a group advocating for absolute Aethelian autonomy and purity of culture, had called for Lyra's immediate censure and public denouncement. She has bonded with an off-worlder without completing proper protocols. She has exposed our sacred Nexus Bond to an uninitiated outsider, he declared to the gathered crowd in the Resonance Amphitheater, his voice booming, resonating with a fierce, almost predatory energy. This union violates ancient law and sets a dangerous precedent. If we allow aliens to claim our people through false bonds, where does it end? Will our very essence be diluted by foreign influence? His words, amplified by the amphitheater's bioresonant acoustics, echoed through the city, stirring fear and distrust among the populace. As political pressure mounted from both worlds, a furious Earth demanding Ethan's recall and a wary Aetheria demanding Lyra's isolation, Ethan and Lyra found themselves fighting not just for their relationship, but for the very future of interspecies cooperation. The love that had grown between them, genuine and deep, a connection forged in vulnerability and mutual reliance, was being twisted into a weapon against the very cause they both served. That night, as they held each other in the glowing apartment that had become their sanctuary, surrounded by the soft, shifting lights of luminous city, both knew that tomorrow would bring impossible choices. Their Nexus Bond had transcended species and culture, but could it survive the politics of two worlds determined to keep them apart? The weight of their impossible love and the fragile peace it represented pressed down on them, threatening to crush them. The ultimatum came at dawn. Two ships waited at the spaceport. Earth's diplomatic transport, stern and unyielding, a metallic predator squatting on a landing pad, and an Aethelian vessel, a graceful, bioluminescent craft, prepared to take Lyra to a remote research station. There, the Purity Coalition demanded she serve out her rehabilitation, a polite term for re-education and isolation. Ethan stood in their apartment's main room, staring out at luminous city one last time. In 48 hours, everything had changed. Ambassador Thorne, his replacement, had arrived, his demeanor cold, his gaze dismissive. Negotiations had stalled, the delicate balance shattered. Both governments, entrenched in their rigid protocols and ancient fears, seemed determined to tear apart what he and Lyra had painstakingly built. "I won't let them separate us," he said quietly as Lyra emerged from her room, carrying a single travel case woven from biofilaments, her organic light fibers almost completely dark. "You have to." Her voice was steady, but her robes flickered with suppressed pain, deep violet and somber gray. "Your career, your future, they mean nothing without you, Ethan. Earth needs you to continue your work, to bring them back from the brink." Ethan turned to face her, and she saw absolute certainty in his eyes, a clarity she hadn't seen in him before. "My people need leaders who understand that the future isn't about isolated nations competing, but about cooperation across all boundaries, including species." He cupped her face in his hands, his fingers tracing the faint glow of her skin, now a soft, resolute blue. "Besides, I have a better idea." Before she could ask what he meant, the apartment's communications system chimed. High Council Elder Solara's image appeared, serene yet watchful, alongside Director Morrison from Earth, who looked severely uncomfortable. "Ambassador Cross, Ms. Novaris, things have changed," Morrison began, his voice surprisingly subdued. "Cross, your final negotiation proposals were reviewed by our top trade analysts. They're brilliant, unconventional, perhaps even audacious, but they could benefit Earth more than our original position, offering long-term stability rather than just a quick fix." "The same is true for Aetheria Prime," Elder Solara added, their starlit eyes twinkling with an almost imperceptible amusement. "Your joint recommendations address concerns we didn't even realize we had, revealing pathways to mutual growth beyond mere resource exchange. The insights gained from your unique collaboration have been undeniable." Ethan and Lyra exchanged glances, a spark of fragile hope igniting between them, growing stronger with each word. "What are you saying?" Lyra asked, her voice hushed, her skin beginning to glow with a hesitant, hopeful green. "We're saying," Morrison continued, a faint tremor in his usually ironclad composure, "perhaps our concerns about your relationship were premature. The results speak for themselves." The harmonic convergence display, frankly, shook a few ancient tenets back in our scientific community. "Our neurolinguists are rethinking everything." Elder Solara's image leaned forward. We have a proposal. The negotiations you've begun require long-term oversight to implement properly. Both our governments would benefit from a permanent liaison team, a team with unprecedented insight into both human and Aethelian ways of thought. Permanent. Ethan's pulse quickened, a dizzying sense of possibility opening before him. A new position, Morrison explained, a hint of respect entering his tone. Interspecies cultural exchange coordinator. You'd split time between both worlds, ensuring the trade agreements evolve properly, fostering understanding and mitigating future conflicts. The position requires someone with intimate, experiential knowledge of both cultures, capable of truly bridging the gap. And it requires a Nexus bonded pair, Elder Solara added, their starlit eyes gleaming with undeniable approval. Lyra's expertise in xenopsychology makes her the obvious choice as co-coordinator, and your adaptability, Ambassador, has been remarkable. The energies you demonstrated at the harmonic convergence confirmed a profound and genuine connection, a connection that serves both our peoples. Lyra's robes burst into brilliant gold and silver patterns, her organic light fibers shimmering with pure, unadulterated joy. You're offering us a way to be together and serve both our peoples, to use our bond for a greater purpose. More than that, Morrison said, his stern expression softening slightly, a rare, almost unnoticeable smile touching his lips. You're being offered the chance to pioneer a new form of diplomacy. If successful, this could be the model for all future interspecies relations across the galaxy. A diplomacy built not on cold logic, but on genuine understanding. 3 months later, Ethan stood in the Resonance Amphitheater, wearing robes that blended earth silk with Aethelian luminous biofilaments, the material breathing with soft, internal light. Beside him, Lyra glowed, literally and figuratively, in her ceremonial harmonic convergence attire. The luminous patterns on her skin were now complemented by tiny bioluminescent implants that would allow her to share his emotions directly, a sign of permanent bonding among her people, a deeper intertwining of their very essences. She radiated warmth and vibrant light. The ceremony blended traditions from both worlds, a testament to the new era they were forging. Ethan's sister, Clara, had flown in from Earth to serve as his witness, her eyes wide with wonder at the Aethelian customs. Lyra's family, a vast network of bonded pairs, surrounded them with harmonic blessings, their combined energy forming a living, breathing circle of light and sound. When they exchanged vows, his spoken in English and the tonal Aethelian language, hers in the fluid, resonant tongue of her people. The organic structures throughout the Resonance Amphitheater responded with displays of light that were visible from orbit, painting the Aetheria Prime sky in colors rarely seen. I promise to love you across the vastness of space, Lyra, Ethan said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, filled with an emotion he'd once thought himself incapable of. To honor both your world and mine, to build bridges where others see only empty void, to choose understanding, always, over fear. I promise to share your dreams and ease your fears, Ethan, Lyra replied, her voice creating harmonics that made the bioluminescent structures sing, a sweet, soaring melody that filled every corner of the amphitheater. To show you wonders beyond imagination, while never letting you forget the beauty of your own world. To be your anchor and your guide through all the unknowns. When they kissed, sealing their Nexus Bond, the emotional resonance was so powerful that every organic structure on Aetheria Prime chimed in harmony, a cascade of light and sound that rippled across the planet. It was a phenomenon that hadn't occurred in over 1,000 years, a planetary affirmation of their union. Director Morrison, who had surprised everyone by attending the ceremony, his presence a silent acknowledgement of the paradigm shift, wiped his eyes discreetly. Damn good diplomacy, he muttered to High Council Elder Solara, a genuine smile finally gracing his face. The finest kind, Solara agreed, their starlit eyes twinkling with ancient wisdom. Built on love. The universe often requires such unexpected catalysts. 6 months into their new roles, Ethan and Lyra had successfully mediated 3 additional interspecies trade disputes, leveraging their unique combined perspective to find innovative solutions that honored both sides. They had also established the first exchange program for young diplomats from both worlds, fostering a new generation that would grow up with a deeper understanding of galactic diversity. Their apartment in Luminous City had become a vibrant meeting place where Earth officials and Aethelian leaders worked side by side, their combined perspectives creating solutions neither could have achieved alone. The early days of rigid protocols and suspicion were slowly being replaced by genuine curiosity and shared purpose. But it was in the quiet moments that Ethan treasured most. Morning conversations over tea that tasted exactly like the chamomile blend he drank back home, their fingers brushing as they reached for the same nutrient bar. Evening walks through reflection gardens, where they planned their future together, their laughter echoing among the glowing flora. Nights when they lay together under alien stars, Lyra's skin a soft, comforting glow against his, and marveled at the impossible journey that had brought them together. He still grappled with the depth of his feelings, a profound love he'd never allowed himself to experience. But Lyra's constant presence, her unwavering trust, grounded him. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra asked one evening, her voice a soft hum, as they watched Earth rise over Aetheria Prime's horizon, a blue jewel in the amber sky, a reminder of the 2 worlds now inextricably linked. "Never." Ethan pulled her closer, breathing in the sweet scent of her organic light fibers. "Do you regret being assigned to the difficult human diplomat, the one who tried to argue with sacred Aethelian law?" "Never," she echoed, then smiled mischievously, her starlight eyes twinkling. "Though I should confess something. I wasn't actually assigned to you randomly, Ethan." "What do you mean?" he asked, a knowing grin spreading across his face, a warmth blooming in his chest. "I studied the files of every human diplomat for months before your mission was approved. I specifically requested to be your guide." Her robes shifted to playful purple hues, her organic light fibers dancing with mirth. "I found you. Intriguing, Ambassador Cross. Your biosignatures, your emotional suppressed data, your complete lack of genuine social interaction. It was a fascinating paradox." Ethan laughed, a full, unburdened sound mixing with the crystal chimes of her organic light fibers. "So you're saying you chose me?" "We chose each other," Lyra corrected, turning in his arms to face him, her skin radiating pure contentment. "Across impossible odds, between worlds, despite every reason it shouldn't work." The stars knew what they were doing all along. As they kissed under the light of 2 worlds, their love story continued to unfold. No longer just the tale of a human diplomat and his assigned alien partner, but the foundation of a new age where love truly could bridge any distance, overcome any difference, and prove that some bonds are written in the very fabric of the universe itself. Their children, when they eventually came through the miracle of advanced reproductive technology, would grow up bilingual and bicultural, equally at home under Earth's yellow sun and Aetheria Prime's amber skies. They would become the first generation of truly interstellar citizens, living proof that love had indeed conquered the final frontier. But that is a story for another day. For now, Ethan and Lyra were content to write their own happy ending, one shared heartbeat at a time, echoing through the cosmos.